And we just thank y'all so much for joining us. I'm Caressa. I'm a customer success manager here at ClassTag, and I am joined by Danielle, who's a fellow customer success manager. And then we also have a guest on the line, Nydia from Pecos Barstow Toya ISD. She's a district communications director there. So she's going to join us and share some tips and best practices that she's learned along the way of using ClassTag at the district level as well. This can be interactive. Feel free to put questions or comments in the chat, and Danielle will be facilitating that. We'll also be sharing this recording and additional resources out at the end of today's session. All right. So we are talking today about school and district communications. Classroom communications will be a session that we have later this summer. But this session today is really dedicated to those who are sending announcements and communications either at the school-wide level or the district-wide level. All right, so these are some of the topics that we will discuss today. We're going to go through district and school settings, your directory and audiences, how to send announcements, the additional broadcast features that you can add to your announcements, the benefit of using events, two-way conversations, and student accounts. And most of you probably already know this, but if we're looking at communication across the entire district, we know that as you trickle down closer to the student, communication grows more and more. So even though today we are talking about district and school communications, we can't ignore the fact that classroom communications are so important, and they're really the heartbeat of communication with families. And so we will discuss it just slightly so that you can make sure when you're rolling out ClassTag at a school-wide or district-wide level, that you're also focusing in on that classroom and making sure that your family experience is the best that it can be. All right, so first things first, we're going to dig into the product, and we are going to talk about your district settings, school settings, and classroom settings. And this is really all about setting your first impressions with your families and staff, really, and making sure that they are getting the best experience when they enter ClassTag for the very first time. So let me jump over to my ClassTag account. Danielle, can you still see my screen?
Yes, I can.
All right, perfect. Let's start all the way up at the district level. I know that some of you are only using ClassTag at the school-wide level, and that's fantastic, but you can also use ClassTag all the way up at the district level. So let's start there. And your district page, this is where families will land if you are using it at a district-wide level. So you can update the cover photo, the logo or icon. You can add up to 5 quick links here. These are websites that you want your families to have easy access to. You can also change the background and the color. And in order to do that, you would go to Settings, and you would scroll all the way down to District Color and Themes. And you can choose from a variety of backgrounds and colors. Now, these colors that you can choose from, this is the color of the banner that will appear at the top of every announcement that comes out from the district, whether it's via email or directly in ClassTag. This is the color of the banner that they will see. So families will know that this is an announcement from the district because the color is aligned with your district branding. Now, in the settings tab for the district, there's not a whole lot of options and controls at the district level. Most of those live at the school level. So we'll jump over to the school level in just a second. Any questions about your district settings or your district page? Okay, then I'm going to go down to the school level. Now, if you are using ClassTag at the district level, it's important to know that you will need to go into each school and update those settings. So whether you are doing that for all of your schools or you want to delegate that to your school leaders, that's entirely up to you. You can visit each of your schools through that school tab. And let's look at Laguna Hills Intermediate. So this is our school example. And again, each school can also update their cover photo, their logo, They can also add up to 5 quick links that they want their families to have easy access to. They can also update their background and primary color to align with their school branding. So let's choose the Settings tab at the school level. And you'll notice that there are a lot more options at the school level. So we'll talk about each of these settings because it really is important that each of your school settings are selected and configured before you roll this out for the new school year. All right, so some of the settings you see here, and by the way, anything you set at the school level will override what teachers have access to inside their classroom settings. So for example, who can teachers create announcements for? You can decide from these options. And who can parents initiate conversations with? So that's our two-way messaging. So I would imagine that most of you do not want parents initiating conversations with other parents. So this might be the option for you, but you do have some other choices. All right, ClassTag does allow guardians to invite co-guardians. If you want to continue allowing that, you would just keep that checked off. If you want to control which guardians are part of ClassTag, then you can disable that for your parents. Classroom communications, this is basically just saying which enhancement features do you want your teachers to have access to. We're going to go through each of these enhancements, or we call them broadcast features, in a little bit. So after you have that information, you can go back and decide which one makes the most sense for your teachers also to have access to. I would recommend that you also hide classroom directories from guardians. This means that guardians will not have the directory tab. They will always be able to see who is the teacher or co-teacher within that classroom, but they will not be able to see any other families that are part of that classroom. So you can choose if that is important to your school or not. Some additional settings that you have here, classroom funds and supply lists. This is part of our teacher platform where they can invite families to donate to their classroom, in which they exchange those for school supplies. So if you do not want that to be part of your family experience, you can go ahead and turn those off. And then finally, allow teachers to manage co-teachers, guardians, and create new classrooms. This is really just about, do you want the school leader to manage this, or is your district student information system going to manage this? Or is it okay if teachers go ahead and create those additional classrooms and manage those rosters? And we'll send out more information about each of these settings in our follow-up, so you don't have to know all the answers right now, but it is good to know that these settings are there, and you should definitely have them configured the way you want before school starts. All right. One last thing, let's just jump down to the classroom level so that you can see the difference between classroom settings and school settings. We won't spend a lot of time here, but it is important to know that teachers also have settings for each of their classrooms. Now, again, some of these that you've set at the school level will override what is here for each classroom, but they do have some additional options. So if this is something as a school leader that you are very protective of, then you'll just want to communicate that out to teachers to configure their settings a certain way. All right, so some of the additional settings that you have here really pertains to if parents can comment within the classroom or not. So as teachers are creating announcements, if parents are able to comment or like on those, right now it's left up to the teacher to decide that. So again, if that's something as a school leader that you feel very protective of, you might want to direct your teachers to configure their settings a certain way. I know that was the really boring part of today's presentation, going over settings, but it is so important. So are there any questions about settings before we really dig into communications?
I just want to mention that we do have resources and a step-by-step guide that goes over all of the settings that Caressa shared for the district and the school-wide.
All right. Nydia, anything you want to add about your experience using any of those settings?
The difference between this.
So at our district, we do not want our parents talking to each other. So we do have the parents can't talk to each other setting on, but for the most part, we haven't had any issues with that. They can see each other's comments, they can't respond, but it's overall, we prefer it that way because we are a small community. So we don't want them to start drama on an app for their children.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So at the classroom level, it might be different, but certainly at the school and district level, it makes a lot of sense.
Mhm.
All right, so I'm jumping back to the school level and we're going to dig into announcements. Now there's three main types of announcements, and those are announcements that either go out from the district level. Hey, if everyone could take a minute and just check that they're on mute. I'm not able to do it on my end, I don't think. All right, so those are announcements that go out from the district level. We have announcements that go out at the school level, and we have announcements that go out at the classroom level. So that makes a lot of sense. But we also have what we're calling flexible audiences that are new this year. And this really allows you to choose specific families that should receive specific announcements. And we'll show you the different ways that you can do this, but this is really great. Let's say if you have a special group of students who participated in after school and you only want an announcement to go out to them. Just one second, let me see if I can find my mute button here. All right. Or if you have like an athletics program, or maybe only a specific bus route and only those families should receive this communication, or maybe just by graduation year, only these families should receive this announcement. So we'll go over that in just a moment as well. And when we talk about announcements in ClassTag, there are 4 additional broadcast features or enhancements that you can add to your announcements. So we'll also discuss those. All right, so let's jump over. I'm at the school level. And sorry, I'm still looking for that mute button. I wish I could find it faster. I'm so sorry. All right, at the school level, let's create an announcement. And this is, of course, in your orange plus circle. Announcement. And we actually have some new added features to our announcements. For example, you can now use a template. So I'm going to use a template today so I can show you this new feature. And we are going to remind everybody that we do not have school on September 5th. You can modify any of these templates, and coming soon, you'll be able to save your own templates and share templates with your colleagues. So you can modify any of the information inside this announcement. I'll go ahead and add a photo here. Of course, you can schedule your announcement to go out at a later time, or you can choose to send it now. At the school level, you can choose if you are sending this school-wide, which I would recommend most of you sending it from the school level are sending school-wide. And when you choose that toggle, you can choose, even though families can't comment on your school-wide posts, if you want them to reply to you via email, you can allow those, or you might say, no, we don't want anyone to reply to us via email. And then here we have those additional enhancements or broadcast features. So we will briefly go through these, but before I do, are there any questions, or Nydia, do you have any comments about building the announcement so far?
Yeah, so on the announcements on designing graphics and such, I like to use 1920 by 1080p. So Canva's the best because you can set it that way. And my district is predominantly Hispanic, so we do have a large Spanish-speaking population. I do make both graphics in English and Spanish, so that's something you may consider if you also have a language population that you serve in your school or district. And I think the beauty of announcements is it can be done almost at any time. I say the blocking time is 8 p.m.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that, Nydia. So if you wanted to schedule this out to go out at 7:30 at night, that would be acceptable, but anything after 8 p.m., Nydia, is maybe too late for your families.
I know some families here, they go to bed around 8 or their kiddos do. So it's just, it wouldn't really bother them that much, but it's a courtesy thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Great. All right, let's look at these announcement broadcasts. So we have priority announcements. And what this means is, remember, your families or each user can choose their own preferences. They can choose how they want to receive notifications, either via email, text message, push notification. But with priority announcement, it overrides those preferences and it's going to send it out as many different ways as possible. So if you have email and Guardian SMS on file, it'll send it out both ways. So these are like your emergency notifications or anything that you want to ensure families are absolutely getting this message. You may choose to create as a priority announcement. The next one is voice broadcast. Right now, you can drop an audio file in here. It is your voice or someone else's voice. So it's a personal message. And this will go out to families' phone numbers that you have on file. So whenever they pick up the phone or it goes to voicemail, this is the message that they will hear. Coming soon, you'll also see text to speech appear here. So that'll be another option that you'll have for sending these voice broadcasts to families. The next one is student broadcast. This is really cool for like our secondary schools who, if you were bringing student email addresses into ClassTag, you can also share these announcements out to your students. They will receive them via email. And especially at the high school level, sometimes they don't want to bombard parents all the time. Maybe this announcement is really only for students and parents don't need this communication as well. So you can choose if you want to include guardians on this announcement or if this is only going out to students. And then finally, public broadcast. And we'll spend a little bit more time on this in a minute, but public broadcast is where you can share this announcement out to your social media channels, to your public website, and it does not require login. Remember, ClassTag is a secure site. And so when you are sending announcements out to families, if they're receiving it via text message, it may require them to log in to see the full announcement. If you want to bypass that, then public broadcast is the way that you would go. One more thing that I'll point out on this announcement before we preview it, we talked about those flexible audiences where maybe I don't necessarily want this to go out school-wide. I only want it to go to specific families. One of the ways that you can do that is through this upload. When you click that upload button, it's going to ask you to drop a file here. That file is simply one column of student ID numbers. So if you are bringing student ID numbers into ClassTag, one of the ways that you can send an announcement out to only select families is by dropping that CSV file of those student ID numbers who should receive that special announcement. All right, any questions so far before we hit preview? Let's see what this looks like. All right, let's preview this message. This is what it will look like when it is sent out as an email. This is what it will look like when it is sent out as a text message. And once we approve that, we like what it looks like, we will go ahead and send that announcement out to our families. It automatically populates into your home feed. So whether your families are receiving it via text or email, they can also view it directly in ClassTag on your school home feed. All right, so that's creating announcements from the announcement circle. I'm going to hop over to your directory and show you a few extra ways that you can send these announcements out to special populations or only those select families that you want. So if you hop into your directory, and this can be done at the district level, the school level, or even the classroom level, you can multi-select the families that you want to receive a specific message. You can drop or copy and paste a list of student IDs or student names inside this search so that it'll populate those families for you. You can also use this filter. So right now you have some options to find specific families based on criteria. And coming soon, you'll see some more attributes added here. So you'll be able to add things like all students who are on an IEP, or all ELL families, or all students who ride a specific bus. You'll have some custom attributes, also some attributes that may live in your student information system pretty easily. So you'll be able to filter for those as well. Once you have identified the families who should receive this special announcement, you'll go over to Actions and click Announce. And it'll take you back to your announcement creator. But you'll notice here that it's only being sent to 3 families. Those are the 3 families that I specifically selected to receive this special announcement. All right, so those are announcements. Let's see, are there any questions, Danielle? Are there any questions in the chat? Or Nydia, if you have any comments about any of that?
Yeah, I'll make, I missed it earlier, but when doing email replies, I found the best practice for me was putting a generic like communications@pbtisd email. So that way, if parents wanted to reply to a specific message, they wouldn't bombard my actual work email. They would go to a generic email. And I found it works best because if they have a question, the email goes to that one, and it would essentially just all go to that inbox rather than my work inbox. And I'd be able to keep all parent questions and concerns in one place rather than a full mix of like things I do on the day-to-day. So we're also going to be creating that at the school level too. So our schools will have a specific email that administrators access and can get replies there. Though anyone can find an administrator's email on the website. It's just, you tend to go with what you have in front of you.
So Nydia, are you saying instead of logging into class tag with Nydia at PBT you would log in with something like communications at PBT, and so it's like a generic login that only you and maybe one other person uses for class tag, but then any replies go back to that email rather than your actual ISD or district email. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I missed that part. I forgot to say, oh yeah, my account is actually to that email.
Yeah, I love that too, because then I know a lot of times the communications director or the secretary at the school might be creating the announcement on behalf of someone else. So using a more generic login allows you to sign that announcement as that other person, but it's coming from communications at something.
Yes.
Cool. Great idea. Thanks, Nydia. All right. So let's talk a little bit more about that public, moving that toggle over to make it public versus what class tag is in its natural state is private and secure, right? So everything is private and secure in class tag by default, so that only those who are part of the class tag community can see those announcements based on whatever context that announcement is being sent from. This does mean that it requires authentication to view attachments and in order to view announcements if you're receiving it via text. So in order to see the full message, you would need to log in to see that. Whereas if you make the announcement public, you now have the option to share it out to social media, and we allow for you to share it out to Twitter, Facebook, or WhatsApp, and it should be able to prompt you. It will prompt you to do that, in which you'll just connect those social accounts that you use, and with a single click will be shared to those sites. You'll also be able to share it to your public website via an embed code or URL. We can send you more information if that's something that you want. So kind of like when you see Twitter feeds on a website, it'll be like your class tag public feeds on your school or district website. And any of these announcements that are sent out as a public announcement do not require any user to log in to view the full announcement. All right, we talked about directory and audiences and how you can use that multi-select feature, the filter, or the search bar to find those specific families who need to receive a special announcement. So we discussed that. I'm going backwards. I'm sorry, guys. All right, let's talk about events and the difference between announcements and events. Right off the bat, some of the key benefits of using events instead of announcements is that, all right, we'll pause one more time. If everyone can put themselves on mute, that would be really helpful.
Yes, I have it. What you need?
All right. So families and staff can view events from the activities tab. They will always live there for reference.
Can you make me a co-host?
Yes, thank you, Danielle.
Well, I was trying to think if it's
I need to
saved
find
in
you
bills
first.
already, so I don't have to scan it in. So,
Okay, we're good.
Thank you, Danielle. All
I just,
right.
you can't see my messages. Sorry.
All right, so again, let's start over. Events. So events, anything that you create as an event will live in that activity tab. So you can go look at that activity tab at any time to reference what upcoming events are taking place. And that activities tab is also viewable to your families. So they can click on their activities tab and see all of the upcoming events. By creating an event, it's also going to send auto reminders. And so that's one less announcement that you need to create because it's going to auto remind families about each of those events. And then finally, if you want to connect your Google Calendar, anything that is created as an event in ClassTag can also come over to your Google Calendar automatically. And that is accessible to families as well. So if they also have Google Calendar, they can set that up on their end and the same will happen. All right, so no matter if you are at the district level or the school level, you can create an event. Teachers can also create events for their classroom as well. And it looks much like an announcement template, and you're creating a title, information for your event, where your event will take place. Since we do sync with all of your Google services, you can connect your Google Meet account here. Let's say you're having a virtual PTA meeting or something like that. Of course, add your date and time and any additional files that would be beneficial or helpful. Again, it'll ask you to preview. Now, just by creating an event, it does not automatically create an announcement for the event. It's just going to house that event in that activities tab and send those auto reminders. So if you also want to send this as an announcement, you will need to take that next step. You'll just click announce. Now it's going to prompt you to kind of finish it as a true announcement and blast it out to all of your families. So this is what that email will look like. And again, your text message, and we'll send that out. Now, if you click on that little calendar icon within the announcement, you'll see more information. And also in that activities tab, again, no matter if you're at the district level, the school level, or the classroom level, you can click on that activities tab and see which upcoming events are taking place. All right, any questions about events, or Nydia, once again, how has this worked for you guys?
Yeah, so my plan for this next year is just to put almost every possible event in events, because parents do get the reminder. So at the secondary level, basketball games, volleyball games, football games, at like the little ones, open houses and things like that. At the district level, I'm going to be putting our school board meetings, because we're in a phase where we want good communicative transparency with our public. So we want them to know when things are happening. In return, we hope they think they always know what's happening.
Yeah, well, and that's also a good point about the activities. You can preload them. So no matter if you're at the district level or school level, if you know when your holidays are, when your testing dates are, you can go ahead and load those before the school year even starts, and those will already be in class tag for your families when you guys start the new school year.
Yes, I'm going to be putting early releases on ours, holidays. There's another day, oh my God, I blanked, but we're putting early release because that's a district-wide event. Bad weather days. Oh gosh, what are the days we have? Sorry.
Yeah, well, here's an example, winter break. And remember, these by default are not sent as announcements, and you might prefer it that way if you are creating your events before the school year even starts. That's great. Create them, put them in your activities tab, but you do not have to share them as announcements. That would be the next step. If you wanted to send it as an announcement, you can, but that might be overload if you are going to create these in your activities before the school year starts.
A best practice that I share with leaders is if you want your event to go out longer than 1 week before, so you want 3 or 4 weeks, when you get prompted to select I'm done to have it feed to your calendar, you can select announce, and then you could pre-schedule it.
Oh, that's a great idea, Danielle. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, so it'll go to your homepage, and they get that additional reminder to start putting that in their calendar.
Excellent. Thank you. All right, so that's events. Let's talk about two-way conversations. So far we've talked about sending announcements out en masse. That's one-way communication. We've talked about creating events. Again, that's one-way communication. But really making those meaningful connections happens when you're able to have two-way conversations. And though this might primarily be used in the classroom level for teachers to communicate with parents, we know that there's definitely a need also at the school and maybe even the district level to have two-way conversations with families. And this is accessible to any staff member. Again, teachers will be able to do this in their classroom, but school staff and district staff can also do this with families that are of interest to them, that they have a relationship with or need to have that two-way communication with. Now, just so you know, at the school or district level, you would begin having these two-way conversations in a different way than teachers would. So teachers would be able to click on this purple bubble here, and they would see all of their, if they start a new conversation, they would see all of their students and parents that are in their classroom. However, if you were a school leader or a district leader, you're only going to see staff members inside your purple bubble. So you can have two-way conversations with staff members through that purple bubble, and all of your conversations are archived here, or they're listed here on the left. I'm going to take a break and show you something brand new, because you guys who use ClassTag in the past, if this is a feature that you used heavily and you might have a lot of conversations here on the left, you can go ahead and click this, what do you call this, file box right here. And it is going to prompt you if you want to archive all of your old conversations. Now, archive means that you can still find them. It's just going to move them to this tab instead of your active tab. So you might want to go ahead and refresh that for the new school year so that your active tab is nice and clean. All right, but anyways, you can have two-way conversations with staff members through the purple bubble. Now, let's go back to your school page, or if you're working from the district page, that's okay too. Let's go back to that directory tab. If you want to have a two-way conversation with a family, you would get there through the directory tab. So let's say you want to have a two-way conversation with Abby's family. We would click on Abby's name. And now inside Abby's profile, you have a blue speech bubble. When you click on that, you can now select which guardian or guardians, if there were more listed here, that you want to start a conversation with. And it will take you back to this page. This page looks very familiar, but again, two ways to get to this page. The purple bubble for you guys who are at the district or school level will prompt you to have a two-way conversation with staff members. But if you want to have a two-way conversation with a family, you would get there through the directory and actually clicking on that student's name. All right, any questions about conversations? Nydia, any comments about conversations, or Danielle?
I know some teachers do give out their phone numbers, but I like this feature because it allows them to not have to give out their phone numbers. It allows that, I guess, wall of privacy, and so that way parents don't invade a teacher's privacy. Our teachers are amazing, but they also are humans and have lives outside of instructing your children. So I really like that feature, and I encourage my families, though they can give out their teachers, though they can't give out their number, it can be used for emergencies. If they want to set a boundary, they have this available to them.
Absolutely. And just security as well. Anything that happens within class tag is recorded and documented. So you always have that to fall back on if there's anything in question that occurs.
I would add on that teachers can set their office hours in their account settings for all of their classrooms that they teach. And when you set your office hours, it kindly reminds families, if it's outside the office hour, that teachers are not receiving that notification, and they'll receive it when their office hours are back in session.
Yeah. And you guys as school or district leaders can do that as well too. So not just your teachers, although we know that's where a lot of this two-way conversations take place. All right, so that's two-way conversations. And the last thing that we want to talk about today is student communications, specifically for those of you who are working at the secondary level or with older students. There's two ways that you can use class tag to communicate with students. We talked about the first way, and that's by using that student broadcast feature. When you are creating an announcement, you just move that toggle at the bottom that says student broadcast, and it will go out to all of your student email addresses that you have on file in class tag. You can choose if you want those to go out to guardians and students, or if it's a student only announcement. But there's also student accounts. So just like parents can download the app, or you can download the app to access class tag, students can do that as well. There are a few steps that need to take place in order for that to happen, but they can download the app. And when they activate their account, when they log into class tag, they will see any of those announcements that have been shared out as a student broadcast. They will see those announcements. They will also be able to do the two-way messaging with teachers. So if they're working on a homework assignment in the evening and they need help and their teacher has allowed them to contact them via class tag, they can message their teacher and ask for help with number 2 on their math homework. All right, so in order to activate your student accounts, because this is what requires an extra step on your end as either a school leader or a district leader, you would hop back into, we'll look at it from the school level. And you would click on Directory. And you can enable student accounts for only select students, or let's say we want to do it for all of our students. So you would select all of your students, go back to that Actions tab. Instead of choosing Announce, we're not sending an announcement. Instead, we want to enable student accounts. At any time, if there's a student who is abusing their access to ClassTag, you can choose that specific student and disable their account. But right off the bat, if you want to enable student accounts, you would just click this button here. It will send an email first to all of those students. So they have to be able to receive emails from ClassTag, meaning we have to have student email addresses in ClassTag. It'll send them an email first, asking them to basically authenticate or finish setting up their student profile. Once they've done that, they can now download the app and log into ClassTag. So we'll send out more information as well about student communications, how to get student email addresses into ClassTag, and then also how to enable and authenticate those student accounts so that they can have access to that throughout the year. Any questions about student communications?
Heather asked, can you enable student accounts for only certain grade levels?
Yes. So inside the filter, there are, now these right here are, so these are your grade levels. So you can choose only those who are in 3rd grade or, whichever applies. It'll find those students for you. And so it's basically working just like the multi-select, but instead of you multi-selecting them, you're letting the filter work for you.
Great question. And then Caressa, can you explain a little bit more about how do you add student emails to ClassTag?
Okay, so glad you asked. We have another training next week that is all about getting your account set up, the data that you are going to add into ClassTag. And we have some new ways for you to add data to ClassTag for this upcoming school year, which includes a fuller set of data, including adding student email addresses, adding student IDs to ClassTag. So I definitely recommend that you join us next, I believe it's Tuesday. We'll send that information out for you to register. If you're not able to make that training, that's okay. We'll send the recording and the resources out to everybody who receives our newsletter blasts anyways. So keep checking back in ClassTag. We also update this website here regularly with new resources. So this is a link that we can share with you. And you can keep checking here for any of those resources that are going to help you, especially with ClassTag setup when you are ready to do that. So we'll have a lot of resources to help you do all of that, but you will have the ability to load all of that data into ClassTag so that you can really get the fullest use out of ClassTag this upcoming school year. All right, so that's it for me. We have 2 minutes. So if there are any questions, or Nydia, if you have any other words of wisdom for those out there using it at the district or school level, let's hear it.
Yes. So some things I've told Caressa I'm planning to do for this next school year at the district level and campus level. We're going to start implementing bi-weekly and monthly newsletters, so our parents continuously have, again, information of what events are happening, what their kids are doing in school. We're also going to be implementing peak of the weeks. So that's going to be on my district level. I'm going to send like a graphic with all events happening that week, again, reminding them we really want to up our community and parent engagement here. It kind of went down a couple years ago. I was born and raised in the district I work for, and I just remember parents being at everything and anything. Went down, so we're trying to get back to that good old golden age of parent and community engagement.
Awesome, thanks for sharing, Nydia. Danielle, any final words from you or questions that have come in?
Yes, I just shared a Google Doc of all of the resources for all the topics we talked about today. You'll receive that in our follow-up email with the recording of the session, and I dropped it in the chat as well.
Awesome. All right, well, thanks everyone. We hope that this was helpful, and we're excited for you guys starting to communicate with families and increase your family engagement this upcoming school year. So reach out if y'all have any questions. You can contact us at customersuccess@classtag.com. And everyone, enjoy the rest of your day.